Moving today, we're going to be talking about slope. I want you to underline that word, highlight it, circle it, star it, box it, something. That is what this whole entire chapter is going to be about. Okay, and you need to retain all of this information. Okay? So, we are going to be dealing with the slope of a line. Okay, we started with graphing lines with x, y values. Okay, now we're going to be finding the slope. Okay? So, rate of change means the same thing as slope. Everything I write down, you write down. You are going to want to keep these notes. So everything I write down, you write down.
We did this in science.
Rate of change is the same thing as slope. You have seen this in science.
It was easy.
Okay? So, if I have a positive rate of change, how can I tell that from the graph below it?
Up.
It's going up because you read from left to right. So if I'm going from left to right, my line is going up. So my slope is positive. Okay? Why is my slope negative on the second one?
Because it's not going up.
Left to right, it's going down. Okay? Why would this one here be 0?
Because it's flat.
Because it's flat. Okay? There's one more that was not included that I want to talk about is for 0, we had a straight horizontal line. What would it be? What would the slope be if I had a straight vertical line? It is not 0. That's a good guess, though. Let me ask you this. Is that a function? Is this graph that I just drew a function?
Non-functionable.
Why is it not a function?
Because it would have many points on many on the same line.
Right, because this is an x. Okay? It is not a function because this is our single x value. But how many y values does it have? Multiple. Okay? So, this slope would be undefined. There is no slope. Okay? Undefined, there is no slope. Write down what I write down. So, our 4 options for what kind of slope it is if it's positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Those are our 4 different options for slope. Okay? Positive slope, we're going up a mountain. Negative slope, we're going down a slide. Okay? 0 here. Let me explain this to you. If I'm going left to right, you're left to right. If I hit the line, can I keep going?
Yes.
I can keep going, right? It's not stopping me. So it's 0. If I have an undefined slope and I hit that line when I get to it, can I keep going?
No.
No. So there's no slope. It's undefined. There's no way I can calculate what this slope is. Okay? Could I climb this if it extended forever and ever and ever? Could I climb that? No. Okay? So now let's talk about the logistics of slope. When dealing with graphs, what values do we care about? X and Y. Okay? What I want you to understand is I want y over x. Everyone write that down. Y over x. Now, is y going up and down or left or right? It's going up and down, but we can also say it's rising. So that's our rise. Y is our rise. X is going left to right. We're going to call that our run. So slope is rise over run. Okay. Dealing with rise over run is when we're dealing with 2 different coordinates here and here. Okay. My rise, or I'm going to start at this bottom coordinate. I want to find the change or the rate of change from this point to this point up here. I want to find the rate of change, and I'm going to follow that formula that we just created, rise over run. So if I'm starting at that bottom point, where do I need to go? I need to rise, so I'm going to rise. I'm going to say I rose 1. So I'm going to rise. Where do I go from here to get my other point? Right. I'm going to run. I'm going to say that's 3. So how many units did we rise?
1.
1. How many did we run? 3. So our slope would be 1 over 3. Okay, that's my rise over my run. Okay, so we're finding the rate of change from coordinate to coordinate on a graph. That's what slope is. Okay? Now, if you didn't have a graph, we need to talk about how you could find slope just given coordinates. Okay? What I want you to notate is that M stands for slope. M stands for slope. So whenever you see M, that means slope in this chapter. Okay? So remember over here we talked about y over x means rise over run. Okay, with that slope formula, we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Everyone write that down. That means the same thing as rise over run. Way back in chapter 1, first thing I ever taught you. What's another word we can use for subtraction? What's another word?
Take away.
Starts with a D.
Divide.
Nope. What's another word that means the same thing as subtract?
Deduct.
Difference. Okay? So y2 minus y1, that means the difference in y, or the change in y. Subtraction, y2 minus y1 means the change in y. x2 minus x1 means the change in x, which is the same thing as our rise over run. Okay, so it all relates to each other and it all goes back to rise over run. Okay, what I want you to do, circle, underline, star, where you wrote rise over run. Okay? Any questions over the basics so far before we get to using it? Okay, I want you to flip your paper over. I'm going to skip that first one. I want you to find this graph. Now it has points in there for you. I want you to make them bigger so you can see them. Fill in those dots that they gave you. Okay? I want to find the slope of this line. Given a graph, how can I find the slope?
Subtract.
What did I tell you to remember? Rise over run, okay? Pick a point. I usually pick the bottom point always. Okay? I'm going to use that bottom point. Where do I go first to get to the top point? I need to rise how many? I'm rising how many units? Sorry.
3.
I went 3, but Zedek, you said how many? 60. Where'd you get 60 from?
80 minus 20.
Right, it's going up by 20, so we have 20, 40, 60. So our rise
Is 80.
is 60. Okay? From there, where do I go?
Left. Right.
Think. I need to go right, 1, 2, 3. So our run is 3.
That's uneven.
That's our slope. Can I simplify that?
Yeah.
To what? What's 60 divided by 3?
20.
It is 20. Okay, so our slope for this line is 20. Okay? Yes, simplify always. Okay? But when some people ask me, well, why is it 20? We don't even have, there's no run or anything now. Remember, this is also 20 over 1. Okay, but it's just 20. Okay. Now, what if we weren't given the graph? Let's practice what we would do with coordinates. Okay? Someone tell me the coordinate of that first one. This one right here.
120.
120. What's the other one?
480.
480. Now, we're going to use that slope formula that we did on the front side. Someone tell me what that formula is.
M equals YZ
Y2
Y2 minus Y1
over X2 minus X1.
minus X1
Okay?
equals rise over run.
Let's see if we get the same thing. Should we get the same thing? Yes. Okay? So what I want you to do first is label your coordinates. Okay? What I'm going to label 120 is our X1, Y1. It's our XY of our first coordinate. That's what those ones mean. Okay? So what would I label 480? X2, there you go, X2, Y2. Okay? Always label first so then you don't get confused when plugging them in. Okay, what's my Y2?
80,
80 minus Y1,
20,
20.
40, no, that's 60,
And then my X2 is
3,
4 minus X1,
well, 3,
1. Now just solve those. What's 80 minus 20?
60,
60. 4 minus 1? 3. Can we simplify?
yeah.
What does it give us?
20 over 1.
20. You could say over 1. Did we get the same thing?
Yeah.
Yes. So no matter if you have a graph or if you would rather find it using coordinates, you're going to get the same thing. Okay, so what that just gave us is our slope of our line. Any questions so far? Okay, let's look at A together and we're going to try B on our own. On these, we're only given the graph. So I want to use rise over run. What I want you to do first is say if it's positive, negative, 0, or undefined just by looking at it. Okay, think to yourself first, is a positive, negative, 0, or undefined? What do we think?
Positive.
Why is it positive?
Because it's going from left to right.
It's going up left to right, so we know this one is positive. Okay, now we need to do what? How do we find our slope?
You have to go up.
What are the two words?
Rise and run.
Rise and run. Rise over run. So start at one point. I'm going to start at the bottom point. Where do I go first? Up. How many? Up 3. Now I need to go where?
Over.
Run
Run 4.
4.
Right.
Can I simplify 3 over 4?
No.
No. So I'm just going to leave my answer as 3 over 4. Okay. Now, yes, that's our slope. What if you started at that top point, 8, 6?
It'd be 4.
Could I still calculate the slope?
That'd be negative.
Yeah. No, our slope is still positive. Our line is still positive. Still read left to right. How do I get to my other point if I start at the top?
4.
I go rise first, but our rise this time is down 3. And our run is still 4. So no matter what point you start at, you will get the same slope. Okay? Does that make sense? So you will still get the same rise over run no matter what coordinate you start at. Okay? Go ahead and try B. First say if it's positive or negative.
Negative.
And then do your rise over run. Okay. First we say positive or negative. What do we get?
Negative.
It is negative. Now we want to do what? Rise over run. I'm going to pick this point. Could you have picked the other point? Yes, you will get the same thing. Okay, we want to do rise over run. Where do I go first to get to my other point? Up. How many?
4.
You do get 4. Okay, and now I do what?
Run.
Run. How many is it? 6. Okay. Do not forget that negative sign in front. Our slope is negative. But can I simplify this?
Yes.
By what?
2.
2/3.
Divide by 2, we get...
-2/3.
Good, we need that negative still. So our slope is negative 2/3. Questions on how to read it from a graph? Okay, if I started at negative 4, 2 up here, where do I go first? I still do my rise. So I need to go, you still do the same order. I'm going to do my rise, which is still 4, and then my run. So you're first either going to go up or down, and then you're going to go left or right. Okay, always has to be in that order. All right. What if we're given just the coordinates and no graph? Right. Yep, we're going to use that slope formula. Write it down at the top. What was the slope formula?
M equals y.
Yep.
2 minus y1 x. 2 minus x1.
Good. What did I want us to do first? Label. Okay, what can I label A?
x1.
X1 and
y1.
Y1. And then B is
x2, y2.
X2, Y2. Now use the formula, plug in what you know. So we have Y2 is 3.
0.
Y2 is 3 minus Y1
3.
is 3.
0.
Okay. What's our X2?
2.
2 minus X1.
Negative 3.
-3. Now calculate. What's 3 minus 3?
0.
0. 2 minus a -3.
Negative 5.
What happens to 2 positives or 2 negatives?
I count 5.
Turns a positive, so we get 2 plus 3 is
5.
5. Can I simplify that?
No. Yes.
What's 0 divided by 5?
0.
0. So our slope on that one is 0. What's that graph going to look like if our slope is 0? It's going to be flat, straight. Yep. Okay, go ahead and try that same process on C. Start by labeling and then plug in your values. Okay, what did you label P?
X1, Y1.
Yep. What did you label Q?
X2, Y2.
Good. Now we have everything to use the formula, so we got to plug it in. What's Y2?
-3 minus negative.
Careful. Y2 is -2 minus Y1, which is 3. And then what's X2?
2.
2 minus X1, which is 2. Now -2 minus 3. -5. 2 minus 2.
0.
0. Can we simplify that?
Yes. 0.
Callie, type 5 divided by 0 on your calculator. Or somebody.
0.
Says error. Does it work? Can you take 5 and divide it by 0? Right, there's no groups to divide it in. So this one would be undefined slope. I will explain a trick to this. If there is an undefined slope, what did we talk about? What's the graph look like? Straight up and down. There's no way we can get through it. Okay, so it's undefined. Let me show you a little trick to remember the difference between 0 and undefined. Okay, everyone write this down next to these examples. Okay, if we have 0 on the top and a number on the bottom, I'm just going to use variable k. That's okay. So we can get 0. Does everyone see that? It's okay. If I have 0 on the bottom and some number on the top, I'm going to use n this time. Why do you think I used n? Because it's no. So this will give us undefined. Circle that, star it, notate that so you don't lose that. Okay, use that as a trick to help you remember the difference. Okay, any questions over the 2 ways we learned how to calculate slope? Okay, what did I say we need to practice at the beginning of class?
Coming in and doing our work.
Right, we need to practice retaining and remembering these things. Okay, you need to remember this. All right?